I love corn dogs. Okay, so I'm just waiting on this YouTube link because Eric requested that. And I'm also getting this link here. I'm going to post this link here. This is the document we're going to be working on today. We're going to make a break fix onboarding document. So welcome everyone that was awesomely able to come join us. And for those of you that are not joining us live, we'll have access to the document in the Patreon account, which you can access by going to mspwebinars.com, and I'll talk more about that later on. Okay, and then the next link, oops, I sent these to only the panelists. All right, so this link here that I just sent is now the YouTube link because Eric wanted that. And the next link is the document link from SharePoint that I already mentioned. So with that said, I'm just going to kind of dive right in, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So when I say break fix onboarding, I don't necessarily mean that we're doing the exact same thing that we're doing for onboarding a managed services client. I know this is MSP webinars. However, we need to keep it real that, you know, sometimes you just got to do some break fix work, whether it's a project or a company that isn't ready to be a managed service client yet, whatever. So we just want to make sure that when we bring on a new break fix customer, we're doing everything for them just as consistently as we are doing for the managed services customers. So what I would recommend we start with is let's define the scope of a break fix customer. We will probably talk about a few different reasons to bring on a break fix customer. I would say the first scope would be for those of you like John and Eric who have like a storefront and a shop where they're doing repairs. So that may include intake document for the repair, price quotes, whatever. You know, there's probably some documents that need to be signed. Then there's also the opportunities we have where a company calls us and says, hey, you know, we need help with something. So that's where, again, we're going to have some paperwork that needs to be signed. But now we may need to say, okay, well, you know, we don't know anything about your environment. Maybe we should spend a couple hours coming out and just doing some light documentation so that way, you know, we have everything for when an emergency happens. And then number three, there is the company that calls you because it's emergency time and you've never worked with them before. And you you need to figure out how to get things working for them as quickly as possible. So can we all agree that those are like the three main types of break fix work that we'd like to work on? Is there anything else that I've maybe missed?
Well, in some operations like myself and John, where we occasionally have the one-off customer that brings us a job that you only see the client one time, they are still considered break fix. You definitely, you know, even if you're only seeing them once, you need to document what you're doing for them, how you did it, and get proper documentation.
I agree with that completely. Okay. So let's start with that walk-in customer. And I'm going to assume that the walk-in is typically the one-off. And in this case, you know, the person bringing their phone or their computer in, I dropped it, my kid peed on it, whatever issues that you guys get with the computers that come into your shop. Let's figure out what a great process would be to give every customer a consistent experience. So let's start with John, because he hasn't said anything yet.
I knew that would backfire.
There you go. So John, I guess I'll just ask some questions to help maybe lead this. So someone comes in, they've got a computer, they were looking at tons of porn and they got a virus. What do you do?
I try not to find out what they were looking at because that's disgusting. Um, but no, when a customer first walks into our store, we kind of get an idea of what's wrong with it. We look at the system itself. Before we do really a whole lot of stuff, I like to see the computer because any experienced technician could tell if the computer's Windows 7 or newer, which Windows 7 or newer means that we'd probably want to work on it. Vista or older. Thinking of break fix consumer or even business, you would probably want to recommend that they don't fix that item and we do a new computer, so it changes the whole topic at that point. But assuming that their computer is, an updated computer, a newer computer, we would check them in using a form that we have, a standardized form that literally is their information, a checklist about what they want, and a signature releasing us from all liability on the back. Then we enter the stuff into our system for a ticket. We take a $25 diagnostic fee, which is kind of like a deposit for service. We call it a diagnostic fee for purposes that we don't have to give it back. That deposit you have to give back if that's in your terms of service. So we just call it a diagnostic fee of $25 that applies to service. And then they check it in, they get a receipt for payment, and they're on their way.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I recap this in a way that makes sense for the document. Some people may say Windows 7 and newer. Some people may say they still work on Windows XP. So I think the safest way to document is before you even have any paperwork done, you're saying you just give the computer a quick once over to see if it's in the scope of something you would or can repair. Is that accurate?
I would say yes, that's accurate. And I would say if somebody's taking an XP computer, they should be taken out back and shot.
Hey, we've all got our vices.
And when I say Windows, I keep forgetting we actually now work on Macintosh thanks to Eric. Eric helped us kind of get a little bit of a start into that. Today we did Office for somebody, and that would be one of the first software pieces we did on Mac besides an OS install. But that goes to any current operating system would be my definition. Because I wouldn't recommend that people are working on things that are older, not in a break fix environment, because there's just not a lot of need for it.
Fair enough. So why is it that you even touch that computer without anything signed? I mean,
I don't touch it. Visual inspection, just visual. Look at the computer. You can visually tell the age of a computer by looking at it. I mean, if you've been doing this a little while, you can see if it's old Dell 2400 versus a newer Inspiron. We'll say 530, even though those were Vista computers as well, but they had Windows 7. But I don't know a lot of the Dell model numbers nowadays.
So what you're saying is you don't even open it up and go to the system window or any of that. You're just giving it a visual inspection.
Yeah, I won't touch it without a signature. I'm from a big city where everybody sues everybody, so I got stuck on the whole everybody has to sign their life away. Even though I live in a small town and handshakes matter down here, I still don't, I go the long route of a signature.
Fair enough.
But yeah, visual, age of the computer. I mean, you can visually see if the computer's older. If it's an XP computer running Windows 7, I'm going to go the same route of suggestions unless the computer looks like it's a newer computer, maybe an i5 that was running XP because that's what they needed for their business, but now they're running Windows 7. It opens up the conversation for what they should be doing, whether they should be checking it in or going a retail route.
Got it. So now I'll pass it over to Eric, and same question. How does your process differ from John's? I'm not going to say how is yours better. I'm going to say how is yours different.
Um, as much as I want to, I've learned not to pre-qualify computers when they come in. I've learned not to look at them and be like, no, this is a hunk of crap, not worth it. Because people are resistant to that. People will always resist. Whenever you tell someone that their computer is out off the bat, their computer is outdated or old or not worth it, they take it personally. They become a little bit offended and they're less likely to give you money. And let's face it, we're all here because we want them to give us money. So what I do, and that's the only part of my process that differs. I always diagnose everything. I make it a rule that everything gets a diagnostic. I have the person fill out the form, typical contact information, what they're dropping off, what their complaint is about the machine, get passwords, things of that nature. And then I run a full diagnostic. I check the condition of the hardware, especially on older computers. That's super important. You always want to check everything, because on an older, that XP, that Vista, that Windows 7 machine, willing to bet that hard drive's getting ready to crap out. So I, like John, have a diagnostic fee. Mine is $49. I don't take it up front. We do the $49 diagnostic fee, but if the customer chooses to have us repair the machine, we waive that. Should they just be like, well, no, I can get this done somewhere else, that's cool. They're still on those for $50, whatever. So we don't collect payment up front. We have the client fill out the information. We have them sign on the back of the sheet that basically has our liability waiver, and it takes up the whole back of the sheet. It's quite extensive, but it makes sure that they can't come back on us somewhere in the future and bite us in the rear end. And then after that, we take the machine and then we start running diagnostics, see exactly what's going on. I don't make it a habit to open up the machine in front of the client and be like, oh, show me what's going on, because you're eating up your time at that point. They're going to show you everything under the sun, and you don't need that. Your time is worth money, and you're running a business. You don't have time to sit there and mess with the client. And plus, we all know the rule in IT that the client always lies. So it's best for us to get our hands dirty, roll up our sleeves, get our hands dirty, and see exactly what the shape of the device is in. And after that, I have the machine. It's running diagnostics, and once we know what's going on, we give the client a call, give them our quote, and they say yay or nay. And if they say yay, we write them an invoice for the work. If they say nay, we write them an invoice for the diagnostic. And it's pretty much self-explanatory after that.
Excellent. So you said some things that kind of jump out at me. One, just get them to give you money. That's important.
Well, everyone who walks through your door is a potential client. Everyone who walks through your door is potentially someone that's going to give you money. And what the diagnostic fee does, it's not just a way of getting you money. It's a way of the client showing you that they are serious about the repair. They're serious about their computer. They're serious about that job. If $49 is too much to the client, then they don't care. They don't care enough about their machine. If they don't care about their machine, frankly, why should you? So it's kind of the only qualifier that I have. If the person is unwilling to give a crap enough to shell out a diagnostic fee, then they're not the kind of client that I'm looking for.
Excellent. I like it. So let's shift. Let's now talk about, and I appreciate everyone that's typing. The more the merrier that's typing in this document. If you guys need me to, there is the link to the document one more time. So feel free to pop in there and type away, guys. I will turn it into a pretty document and then leave all of the original notes from the webinar in as like an appendix. I did that with the last document. I think that worked well. So let's shift. Let's now talk about the regular needs, occasional work done type client. And this is, I'm going to assume this is a business, but I don't know about you guys. I've had the homeowner with kids who, needs to call every 5 or 6 months and have work done regularly because kids. So what type of stuff are you doing for the let's just say company that calls you up and says, nothing's wrong, but we're looking for a new IT company to support us for when something does go wrong? And we'll start with John again.
I mean, honestly, on that, I look at the same thing as far as an onboarding. I'm going to get them to initially fill out the same form just because it's a great liability waiver rather than going through everything. I don't separate the two. I'm looking more for them understanding at that point that we're available to them. But if they're just a break fix customer, I mean, it's more just a conversation. If they don't have anything wrong, it's just a conversation because you're not agreeing to any rates, you're not putting any long-term commitments on paper. They're just, if they want to do something, you go in, you meet with their guys, you get them to sign a liability waiver that, takes you into the future, and then you just kind of go from there as they have their needs. I mean, then they don't have to fill out paperwork if they're a business. Any reoccurring client that I have a rule of thumb that every time a computer comes in, they fill out the form, whether I have one on file or not, because it's not I don't have time to go find their paperwork, make sure it was filled out right. Maybe we missed the signature last time. I don't want to take any of those chances. I'd rather just have a new one on file for each service. Information changes. People move, phone numbers change, email addresses change. 50% of the email addresses people give me are fake. So, I mean, in that aspect, I'd rather have them give me another email that may potentially be theirs for our mailing list. So, I mean, any of those reoccurring customers, I want to make sure their information's updated. So I want to go ahead and keep giving them the same form. Businesses, again, if it's going to be a long-term relationship, I get a liability waiver signed, and then we just go on a project by project basis or, an emergency needs, basis as it goes on.
Eric, same question as last time. Let's talk about the business that says, they need some occasional work done. I thought it said Steve, but it says shave. Shave and dress better. I thought they were telling Steve to dress better. And people would quit thinking you were a stalker, John. Wow. Good old Robert. So, so Eric, how does your process differ from John's when it comes to bringing on a new company for the occasional work?
I do the same as John. It's a case by case job at that point. The company comes to me whenever they need work, and whenever they need work, they fill out the form again. They sign the form again, and that's the most important part. Is you get that signature freeing you up of any kind of liability. Usually when a company, like you mentioned in the first example, a company coming to you saying they're happy with their IT guy, but they want to know what you can do and what's better. At that point, you're just answering questions. You're just shaking hands. You're smiling. You're being personable. You're doing your elevator pitch, and you're basically selling them on yourself. When they actually try you out for the first job, you treat them like you treat anyone else. You go in with a friendly smile, shake their hands, have them fill out the information, have them sign that waiver, and you see what you can do for them. So the process doesn't really differ that much at all for a business client one-off or a residential client one-off. The important thing is to fill out the documents and to get them to sign.
So, something I'm hearing or not hearing is what is literally in the document. I know that you guys have a document each.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a document that you're willing to share with everyone participating to edit and use for themselves?
I don't know if I'd be allowed to, because my document's a heavily modified version of the one you get from the Technical Business Kit, and I don't know if that violates their EULA.
Fair enough.
So I did create mine 100% by hand. I would say the front side of my document I'd feel comfortable sharing. I would just delete off all my legal terms because I'm not a lawyer and wouldn't want anybody using my wording as legal advice for themselves. It was not edited by a lawyer. It was edited by me. So therefore, I don't want anybody to think that it's actually a legal binding document in their state.
Well, I think I would just stop it right there and say, I don't care if somebody gives me a full managed services agreement to use. I'm still going to have a lawyer look at that thing and tell me, yes, this thing is going to cover your tuchus, and I need
And
someone's seal of approval that's
there,
not
there
me
are
and not
people out
another IT
there.
guy.
There are people out there that will take the Technibble business kit and run with it and not go any farther. Every state's different. So
When I got it years ago, I showed it to my attorney, and he was like, okay, this is a good start, but here's what you need to change. And $500 later, we had all the changes and modifications done to the legal aspect on the back. To the part on the front, however, I modified as I seen a need for it. Like I added some spaces for diagnostic results for typical diagnostics. I added spaces for better password notation, product key notation, stuff of that nature. So it's definitely an evolving, a living document, an evolving document. But what we can create here, I think, is going to be the basics that every business is going to need. And a good starting point for that is we want to get contact information. We want to get the person's name, address, phone number, and email. And sometimes they'll cringe when you ask them for the email. But I always tell them, look, we like to have 3 points of contact just in case you decide you don't want to pick this machine up. We have to be able to contact you 3 different ways before we declare this abandoned. And when you mention something like that to someone, they'll give you their email address, and they'll give you a legit email address. They won't give you, tom@myspace.com. Not that I've ever, used that on a form ever, but, But anyway, that'd be a good place to start, is get legitimate contact information from the client. So I would start the form we're creating with that. The second thing I would put on there would put what equipment is being dropped off. Are they dropping off a laptop, a desktop? Are there power cords, mice, external hard drives, stuff of that nature? I haven't been looking at the document. Is anyone actually taking this down?
They are.
So Steve, I don't mind sharing my document, including the legal terms on I can screen share that document with you if you would like. I also have a typed up the last. So I learned a long time ago that for your SOPs, you always have the new person do your SOP all over again after reading the current SOP. Well, my last person didn't have anything to go off of, so she created the first ever SOP for onboarding a client for us. So it's about 3/4 of the way done, but I don't mind sharing that either.
Okay, great.
Did you want me to share that that intake form that we use?
Share away, and then are you doing it as a screen share? You said.
Yeah, it'll be a screen share of a particular document.
Okay, just make sure it doesn't have any customer information or anything you don't want the world to see.
No,
so
it's just the document.
So while you guys are reviewing this, I just want to point out that one thing that I ask for, even with break fix clients, is I have them sign that they understand the terms of service, which is on the bottom of my website. I have them provide me, I've actually got an Excel document I created where they can basically type in all of their company details, contact details for each person at the company that I would be working with. That way I can import all of that right into Autotask. And then I've also got a form that I have them all fill out to put a credit card on file. So that way when I'm done working on a job for someone, I run the card. I invoice them, I run the card, and yeah. So is that something that you guys do as far as requiring payment information on file for businesses that you're working with?
For businesses, no. I've noticed that a lot of businesses prefer to cut you a check. Their accountant prefers it that way. So that's the only way I'll take a check is from a business. I definitely won't take one from a residential customer. But you on a break fix level, the one-off businesses, you can usually get a check cut by their accountants or even the owner of the business right upon completing the service.
We actually take checks from anybody. In our rural area, I've had 3 bad checks in almost 9 years, and one of them was a tip. One of them we recovered funds, and the third one I believe we recovered funds, or we recovered the item that we actually sold on that check to the business, because that was a business that that stood us up on the one that we sold them a computer. So yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of trouble with bad checks around here.
Got it. So James, I have a form that they fill out with the credit card information. I do destroy that if it is a physical copy. Usually it is a digital copy. So it's still, it's deleted, but it's not, shredded. Something that I'll also do is sometimes I'll just give them access to the Connect Booster platform that I use, and I'll just make sure that they punch their credit card information right into Connect Booster, so that way I don't even have to see it. Everything's PCI compliant, and everyone's happy. I'm not storing the document though. If they provide me with their credit card info, I put it in the Connect Booster and then I destroy that doc, because that's the last thing I need is someone getting access to my customer credit card info. So that's all at a payment gateway somewhere in the cloud.
So here's a catch, Steve, that some of us have to deal with. So I do reoccurring payments on even residential customers. Again, I know this isn't managed services, but speaking of the credit card document itself, if we do any recurring payments at all, we are required to keep a paper copy or digital copy. We like paper, it's a little more secure, of their credit card number, their expiration date, and a signature on file. Here is what QuickBooks requires of us. So different credit card processors do require some different things. They basically want a signature approving that the customer gave that to you, in case they ever dispute it.
So Connect Booster has a form, and I'll share that here now, actually, if you guys want. The Connect Booster form is really interesting in the sense that they have the form available so that way you can have somebody sign it, but it's different because it's actually not asking for everything. I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Not that one. This one. All right, let me zoom out on this thing for you. So this is theirs, and the big thing that you'll notice here is they're actually not recommending you put the entire thing. They just want the last four of the credit card number, because it's already going into the Connect Booster system. The point is that this form is just giving you permission to use what's in Connect Booster that the customer enters for you on a recurring basis. So eventually I'll get to the point where I'm just using this form and I'm not even touching the credit card numbers, but I really like that.
I think that is beneficial for even the break fix, the Connect Booster aspect, where you'll keep a card on file for somebody that's a business that, may keep coming back and back and back and just say, hey, bill my credit card. So I've actually never thought of that aspect, because I just tell them, write me a check. But it is a good way to probably get paid faster in that aspect.
I definitely get paid faster. That is for sure. All right, so now let's go to the immediate house is on fire type of customer. What are you guys doing for them? I imagine that as far as they're concerned, things need to be moving much quicker. So how do you accommodate for that?
I do the same thing that I do with every other customer. They fill out their information, they sign the liability waiver, and then we take care of them. Everybody fills out the information. Everybody signs the liability waiver. No exception. Absolutely no exception. And I think it's a total CYA measure. That once that information is filled out and signed, then we can take care of the client accordingly, regardless of how fast, slow, or whatever they need the job done. If you'd like, I could screen share the form that I use. I'd be more comfortable doing that than
Sure.
putting it up on the. Yeah, I'll go ahead and see if I can.
Yeah, the image of the form wouldn't be a violation, just an editable.
That's what I was thinking. So this is the document I use as a client intake. Basically, I have them fill out, you got the time, date, or the date info or invoice number. The ref up here is referral. How the client was referred. Did they see us on Google? Did they learn about us from a Facebook group? Or was it a friend, a previous client who told them about us? That gives me a good metric onto my marketing. So I make it a habit to ask everybody, how did you hear about us? So then you have the basic info that I was harping about, the name, address, all that stuff, phone number, email. You have the components that the client dropped off. If it's a desktop, does it have a power cord, laptop? Are there any cables? Did they give us, for some unknown reason, the operating system disk? Some of the older clients bring those in even if we don't need them, and they insist on leaving them. Computer details, model of computer, serial number, and that's a big one that I learned. Always take down the serial number. 5 years ago when I started my business, I actually had a client bring me a computer, and 2 weeks later it was stolen out of her car. She called me saying, I hope you can help me. Did you happen to take down the serial number so I can give this to the police department to get the computer back? And I did at the time, just because it just made sense to do it, because it was a MacBook. I figured an expensive computer, I should have a serial number on there to cover my butt. So I was able to give her the serial number. She was able to put that on her police report, and eventually she did recover the computer. So awesome. I've since made it a habit that every device, every computer, laptop, desktop, whatever that comes in, I take down that serial number. The key is for, the Windows product key. That's kind of a legacy feature. Back when 7, Vista, XP, you might need that for a reload. It's better to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. Then you get some of their usernames and the passwords for the main users. Usually, most people only have one user on their computer. So you just put whatever password if there is one. The description of problem is basically, in the client's word, what's wrong. If they say it's slow, I write it's slow. If they write I'm getting pop-ups, I write pop-ups. Basically, however the client words it is what I put in the description of the problem. Then for the initial assessment, does a computer get power? Does video display? Does it boot? Do you get errors? Yes or no? It's easy enough. That gives me some way to document the diagnostics, the initial diagnostics that the computer came in with, like what was going on with the computer. Did it even boot? Does it pop up a no disk error? What's going on? The diagnostic results section is for your basic diagnostic results. Is the hard drive good? Did the RAM pass the mem test? And for mem test, I do about an hour. Anything that if memory is going to go south on you, it's going to go south within the first hour, more than likely. I use PC check to do the CPU and the motherboard tests. Same with the basic GPU test. I write down the results there, usually in like pass/fail, say if the GPU failed. For the PSU, it's a quick power supply test with my little thermal take Dr. Power 2. Takes 5 minutes. If it's a laptop, of course, you can't test that, so just NA there. And then, of course, technicians' notes and proposed repairs. If you see that the computer's been dropped, there's dents in the computer, computer's old, computer's a hunk of crap, you write that in the notes. If there's nothing to put in the notes, you don't put anything. And then, of course, the proposed repairs, like say client needs a virus removal, so you put virus removal, write down what it'll cost. Then I call the client, let them know what it'll be. If they accept that, I just circle the price as a way of notating to myself, okay, the client agreed to this $169, this $189, whatever the heck it is. And then from there, I type up the invoice and get that going for them. And that's the first page or the front of the document. The back of the document, of course, is all that legal agreement crap. That's the heavily modified stuff. And they sign it, they date it, and you keep that for your records. I always print 2 invoices. I take those, I staple them to the intake sheet. The client gets 1 invoice when they pick up the device and pay for it. I keep the other along with the intake sheet and put that on file. I keep my files based on month every year. So like I've got a file or a bin that has all my 2012 folders, a folder for June, a folder for July, August, September, and all the invoices from June are in June's, August are in August, so on and so forth. So, and that's how I do a hard copy filing system. I also keep digital copies on the computer. because I've heard horror stories about audits, and I don't want to get audited. If I do, I'll be able to provide them with hard copies and digital copies of every invoice that's ever been done through my business. So it's again, better to have it, not need it, than to need it, not have it. But this basic information here on the form, and same with John's form, is what every business should be taking in when they're onboarding a break-fix client. You need to get the contact information. You need to know what they're dropping off. You need passwords. Oh my God, you need passwords. And it does take a little bit of time to get used to asking clients, do you have a password to boot this machine? Do you have a login password? Sometimes clients don't remember. They'll actually have to look at a keyboard because it's all muscle memory to them. They don't remember it in their heads. So it's good basic information to have, though, on every machine that comes through. And the diagnostic stuff just stresses the point that you should diagnose everything that comes in your shop. Never take the client's word of what's going on. I mean, sure, the obvious, like, screen's broken. Yeah, I can see the screen's broken. But it's slow. Well, why is it slow? Is it slow because you have malware? Is it slow because you have a failing hard drive? Is it slow because the settings off? You don't know. So you want to diagnose everything, test everything, and cover your keister in that regard.
Excellent. So it's a neat little form. I like that. So for me, I do everything in Autotask. And with the new update that just launched in the last month or so, with the Autotask 2017.1, with a totally refreshed ticket UI, I am overwhelmed and need to figure out how to make some ticket categories. And one of the ticket categories I could make could be PC repair, virus removal, whatever. And the cool thing about that is you can actually kind of create your checklist right into the ticket. It's got the ability to have a checklist right there in the ticket. And that'll help you with making sure that you're doing every step consistently every single time you work on something. So Mary asked, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, go with Mary's question, and then I want to show my document again and discuss with Eric a few things I did on my document that he may like, may dislike, and so on.
Sure.
Sounds good. So Mary asked, do you all actually take in a paper form, or is this just what you have in your management system for intake? I can't stand paper forms. I will lose them or throw them away or shred them.
I answered back in the chat, but I'll say it for the listeners. I take paper forms on everything, primarily because I want that frickin' signature. I want that liability waiver. It's, again, better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. It's just like insurance.
Well, and that's, in my opinion, that's what EchoSign is for. I'll just get a digital signature. I still won't have a physical copy, and I'm happy.
I'm old school. I like to have the physical copy. Makes me feel a little bit better.
We take physical as well. We do the same thing as Eric. We keep that signature copy. We staple it to the end invoice, and it goes in our packet. So, we have all the hard paper. I showed you guys my boxes of paper earlier, and, that's kind of where we keep it. Let me see, find this. Which one? Intakes. Oh, I'm not supposed to. Yeah, okay, there it is. So one thing that we do is we do the same thing on the top half of the form, essentially, that you're doing, Eric.
Okay.
We give what's wrong. I like the what's wrong box because we didn't used to have it. We used to write our own notes on there. I put what's wrong so the customer writes in their own words what's wrong. So when they come back in and they say, well, I wanted you to take a look at my keyboard. Well, that's not what you put on the document. Even when it's a cracked screen, they still have to write cracked screen because I want them to tell me if they had a virus as well that they wanted me to look at. So anything you want me to look at, you put in that what's wrong box or
Nice.
somewhere on the paper, It's a small box. This is, as you can see, a half sheet of paper. So the other thing I did is I wanted customers to stop bickering about, well, you didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me that, we didn't discuss that. We have multiple people that work with us. So I put in this services requested part so that the customer actually puts an X. We don't do it. The customer puts an X. If we want the customer to mark something, we will circle it. But the customer puts the X, And then we make sure that we're telling them why they're putting an X there and why they have to do it, because it discusses the price, it discusses the service, and so on. I also figured I'd put a couple upsell boxes on our intake form. So this is our older form. I can't find the newer one because I'm still trying to print it for in shop and I can't find it. We actually removed all of the antiviruses we don't sell, and we replaced it with a Bit Defender for $49.95 that we do sell. We still have our maintenance program for all of our residential break fix customers. That's what this speaks to. And then basically, if they don't want antivirus, we make them, we literally read the statement to them that, you know, if they're in here for a virus, they're probably not currently protected, so they should do something. And we tell them to click whether they feel like they're already protected or they don't want anything protecting them. And then backup to sell them carbonite. That's not supposed to have a checkbox there. We sell them or we sell carbonite, so we try to get them to back up before service or buy carbonite for long-term protection. If they want it, great. If they don't want anything, there's a little line here. I backed up or don't care about my data while it's in here for service. Basically an extra thing to remind them about data, but also provide an upsell for them. If, you know, if they don't think about it, they may not want you to do it, or they may. I have a lot of customers say, well, let me just get that. I haven't backed up in a couple months. And so they like that extra USB thumb drive backup. So that's an upsell option. The other thing I do, the reason why you don't see some of those check boxes that you have on your form on mine, you'll see these place service requests, and then also down here, place diag label. We use a Dymo labeler to make checklists. We put them on the computer, a little half of the adhesive on the computer. We peel them off and put them right on the form. So we have the same checklist, just in a different form as you. So if they're in here for a diagnostic and OS install, they get updates as well. And then if they're doing virus, they get diag, virus, and update. If they're doing a backup, we have one that gives a backup checklist. So, and then this is with their service ticket, because we use Autotask as well. So we'll put a service ticket number on here. And that's kind of why my form looks a little bit different, because I use the labels for checklists rather than a form for a checklist, because this is taped to the back of their computer. I'd rather deal with the Dymo labels sitting on their palm rest or on the top of their desktop.
I noticed you in your services requested, you have won't turn on. Is that a new service you're offering? You won't let them turn on their computer?
That's usually if their computer doesn't turn on for them. But I mean, we won't turn it on as well if they don't want us to. We gladly charge a diagnostic fee just to visually inspect it and not turn it on. I mean, we'll do anything they want to an extent.
Within reason.
No XP machines. Steve, now you brought up checklists, and hopefully I'm going to share the right tab here. Cross my fingers. So this is the new ticket for Autotask. And again, we go back to Eric's checklist. Oh, apparently I didn't click virus yet. So we have speed codes. I can do a whole bunch of speed codes. If I hit virus, it actually creates a checklist in here that we can go down and we can check the items as we go through. So basically it'll let us know once those are all checked inside of the actual ticket. So this is what you were talking about, Steve, by creating a certain type of service and having checklists associated with it. You can also have important, so it tells you if you should have those done before closing the ticket.
Yes. And I like that. So on a virus removal, you've got a standard thing that you do. You run the tech USB, you remove a bunch of unwanted crap, you do a disk cleanup, like you just have, here's all the stuff that I have to do for a virus removal.
Now, let me throw this out there, because I'm sure there's people looking at this screen right now and saying that's not how you remove a virus. So this is the basic steps that go on every single virus removal computer. There are those technician brain power or technician skills that we have to put into this in addition to this to resolve anything like, there's things that'll pop up that will steer you astray. It's not just a clean cut. This is how you're going to remove a virus. So like run tech suite. my tech suite has custom programs in it that run as a part of that automated setup. So it doesn't actually mean that I'm only running these things. It's just that is the standardized checklist of everything we should run at a bare minimum, plus anything else we see through the course of the service.
Of course. And the checklist is not the same as like, documentation or an SOP. It's not there to walk a layman through so you can hire, a college kid to come in and do all this stuff without you having to watch them and do it right. This is more just so you can go through and, oh yeah, I forgot to do this one thing. For me, it's always I forgot to install printers. I always screw that up when I'm setting up a computer for a client remotely or whatever. I always forget to install those darn printers. So having a checklist where install printers is one of the items, just to remind me, it just makes it a lot easier. The other thing is, as you see here, you may enter up to 20 items. So, I mean, you've only got so much room.
Oh, apparently I added too many checklists, but on the bottom, 11 through 16 that it just added, because it doesn't replace them, it adds them since I checked them. I have checklists for just about everything in here. So this gives me the ability, rather than on my intake form, to have multiple checklists. So like we do warranty claims for a specific vendor that we deal with, and we have their checklist too that we wouldn't do on those forms just because of time saving and paper saving, space saving type stuff.
Excellent. So it doesn't really seem like anything's different for the house on fire versus occasional work. So I say just drop it, because
House on fire is really not different. I mean, in the very rare exception that you have something immediate, I mean, like maybe a crypto locker that you have to, outside of telling the person to stop what they're doing, turn off their computer in the middle of the business day, maybe slide them that waiver, say, hey, sign this so I can start touching it, and then fill out the rest of it. I mean, outside of that, there's not much that I would change up. I mean, I all the time in the store, because we have multiple people here, I'll say, I'll turn the paper over, sign this first so I can go start doing your 5-minute job so you can get out of here by the time your paperwork's finished. I mean, it's still the same paperwork though. It's just, I mean, house on fire just means sign the paper first. Let me start working while you finish the rest of the paperwork.
You always need consent before you get free.
Whoa.
On the computer,
all right.
On the computer, I'm talking about a repair.
Yes doesn't always mean yes, so you want that in writing.
Don't forget to get the safe word.
But no does mean maybe, right?
Yeah, it actually does, because when they say no, I don't want to buy a new computer, they're really saying just convince me better.
So let's talk about the break fix customer that you've onboarded. Maybe you're working with them for a while, weeks, months, years, whatever. I'd like to throw in a little bonus material, so to speak. And I'm going to throw a curveball at both of you. How do you change them from a break fix customer to someone that's giving you money every month or every year?
That's easy. That's easy. That's cake. I've had this use case numerous times over the years. It'd be like you get, I call them my frequent flyers. Say the type that are always coming in with virus removals. Be like, look, you're in here every so often. Like you're in here at least every other month with a virus. If we put you on a maintenance plan with a managed antivirus, we can definitely save you some money and keep this from happening to you again. And most of the serious 90% of the time, they'll jump at it. But unfortunately, it usually takes them having to come to you a few times before you can convince them that it's worthwhile. But once they do, then you've got yourself some reoccurring revenue.
Why you, John?
Remember my form, it has a little checkbox? Just make them check it. Then they've agreed to it.
How about a less shady way?
That's not shady. I explained to them why they're checking it at least. They just have to check the box. I mean, in all honesty, they walk in. There's clients that just will, and there's clients that just won't. It's the way the client is. If the client doesn't get oil changes on their car, they're not going to get a maintenance plan for their computer. If the client doesn't go to the doctor at least twice a year, once every 2 years, I mean, look, we'll spread that out, to once every 2 years. If they're not going to go get a checkup on themselves, why do they care about their computer? I mean, you also have the customer that buys the $250 computer. When we talk break fix, that's a lot of residential that are going to be watching this. Residential technicians, not customers. But even the businesses that are break fix, if the businesses are break fix, they're just buying whatever they think they need. They're not asking for consultation on a lot of stuff. So they're buying the $250 Walmart HP, and they're wondering why it doesn't work right. So, I mean, they're not going to be your clients. You've got to have that relationship built and that trust built. The customer that walks in for the first time meeting you and signs that managed recurring revenue as a break fix is very, very rare. I mean, the first time they meet you, they don't trust you enough, in my opinion and in my experience. However, scam artists do it every single day, so there's obviously something we're doing wrong.
It's the beard.
You would think that would help. Thank you for calling technical support. We just flagged your video by the NSA, by the way.
More views.
Eric got all serious.
No, I was reading an email.
But no, I mean, break fix to manage is always a tough conversion because you're breaking somebody from what they're used to and their habits. If their habits are buying cheap stuff, they're going to have a hard time paying for a maintenance agreement that costs more than their computer.
That's true. So do you guys get, I don't know about you, but when a customer calls up, someone that you work with on occasion, and they call up and say, hey, Steve, we just bought 3 new computers. Can you come out and set them up for us? Like, does that happen to you guys?
All the
That
time.
happens to you guys, right? Not all the time, but it happens from time to time.
Occasionally, yeah.
All the time.
Doesn't that offend you? Like, it offends me. Like, what do you mean you went and bought 3 computers? Why didn't you call me?
Well, no, I
Jackass.
don't let it offend me at all because people always do what they think is in their best interests. They obviously thought somehow that it was in their best interests to go around you and to source their computers elsewhere. So that being the case, it's not offensive that they did that. The only thing that would bother me about that is what did I do wrong to get them not to get me to do it for them? And then I would analyze that, think about what could be different and how to step up the game. However, if it's just the El Cheapo client that's trying to get the cheap deal on Amazon, then honestly, that's not the kind of client I want. So those type of situations either teach me to step up my game or teach me that that's not the client that I want to service. So either way, it's a win for me.
There's a couple things you can do in that situation, though, because generally speaking, if they bought the computer themselves, they've called you within the first 14 days because it either sucks or they need help setting it up, one or the other.
Right.
And at that point, a lot of customers tell me, whether it's true or not, that they didn't know that we sold computers because we don't stock them in the store. We buy stuff custom for every customer, different customer, different product. So they say, I didn't know you did that. I'm like, well, here's the pros and cons of it. What you have now is going to do X, Y, Z. You still have a return period to take it back to Best Buy, Walmart, Dell.com. And here's what I can get you. Or we can set you up with what you need. But guess what? You forgot to buy the professional version. So that's going to be X, Y, Z on top of it. We're still going to have to do all the setup. It takes longer to set up a consumer-based computer than it does a business computer because you got a lot more consumer crap to remove to make it usable. So you know what, I'll call you tomorrow and we'll get this ordered, because they'll take back the unit. And they always want to take it back first for some reason. I don't know why they don't want to just, because it doesn't credit their credit card any quicker. But they always want to take it back first, come back. And, I'd say 25% of the time they rebuy a system. And, the rest of them, I mean, some of them just don't like any of the answers. And, they're just not for me. I mean, I only do premium work and sell premium items. I don't do anything less. I don't sell $250 computers because I don't want them coming back yelling at me. I'll help those customers buy a Walmart computer by pointing to the nearest Walmart, but they can come back and service their computer if possible. But now everybody's buying these 32 gig laptops. Like, what are you going to do with a laptop with 32 gigabytes of storage? You can't even
on Google Drive.
I mean, it's a doorstop. So a lot of times they make a poor choice and they have to fix it.
Mary asked, do you require a % down on hardware, or do you front the cost yourself? I do. I require a percentage down. It is 100%. I'm not the bank, Do you order something from Amazon and pay them COD? Or I mean, no, you pay for the product and you ship the product. You can either ship it to your store, to your office, whatever, or you can ship it right to the customer. Now, I think John and I can both agree that Amazon, unfortunately, is cheaper than distribution, but going through distribution is typically the right thing to do.
Depends. There's a huge caveat on that. It depends on quantity. It depends on what you're going to buy. If you're buying one or two machines for a client, say you've got a optometrist office that just needs a couple of all-in-ones at the front desk, yeah, Amazon will get you them cheaper. However, if you've got a client that's decided he wants to get in on the Bitcoin mining stuff and needs 200 graphics cards, you better get a disty for that one, because Amazon, first of all, isn't going to sell you 200 of those things. I think they have an order limit of 5. And then also the distributor will definitely, if you're buying 200 graphics cards from someone, the distributor is going to give you a break on that. Amazon doesn't care. They won't give you a break on quantity. So it depends.
So I'm not on board with everybody else in the chat and with you guys. I only charge an 80% down on hardware. Service can always come later, same as you guys, but the hardware, I only charge 80% down. Now, to say that, I like to give the customers a little room when customers don't know me yet, that they can still feel that I haven't taken all of their money and I still have something to get from them if it's just a plain computer sale. Because remembering, me and Eric have retail shops as far as storefronts, so people come in that don't know us sometimes. But I usually tell everybody during the process, we have an 80% deposit requirement. Most of our customers just want to make it easy and pay it once, so they just pay the 100% right then. And when I tell them that, it gives them the idea that they're going to go ahead and pay the 80%. But it makes me look nice because I offered them a smaller chunk, so that by the time the unit comes in, they can finish paying the rest, or giving me a little bit of motivation to get it done for them in their eyes. I mean, obviously, my motivation is making the customer happy. But I can't say anybody's given me a partial deposit in 3 years now, but we still say the same thing to everybody.
I like it.
I'm with Steve. I require 100% down for parts over a certain limit, though. I'll gladly order parts for a client up to about $100, $150. Like if they need me to order them a laptop screen, for example, they're not going to pay me for that until they come and pick up the device, because I have their device. I mean, I have their damn computer. Part of that thing they sign on the back is a 60-day, we'll hold this for 60 days. If it's here that longer than that, it's ours. So, and I let the client know that too, right up front. So I'll gladly pay for parts like that and not require the client to pay until they pick up the device, because I have their computer. I can always recoup my cost there. As far as anything larger than that, though, like I had one just today, actually. It's a motherboard replacement on one of those weird, wonky Dell gaming laptops. It's a $500 part. And I straight up told the guy, look, this is a $500 part. You're paying for the part before I order it, because I don't know that he's going to pick it up. The guy kind of also gave me, this is kind of going to be a case-by-case thing too. If the guy gives you a certain vibe, or you get a feeling from a client that they might be a little bit sketch, or, you know, a little out there or on drugs or something like that, always get a deposit in those cases. This guy struck me as he kind of seemed a little high-strung, if you get my meaning. A little too high-strung to be from Colorado, you know. So I definitely made him pay the $500 up front before I even pushed confirm on the order, because I don't know. The guy might be in jail by the time I get everything done for him. But no, so there's gonna be a lot of variables to that. But I think a lot of the time, after a certain price limit, you should get everything up front, just in case, because you don't want to be left sitting on equipment that you can't use. Say I hadn't got the money up front from this guy, I have this motherboard, what am I going to do with it? It's especially for this one model of Dell laptop. I mean, I could send it back, but that's a pain in my butt. So
I agree with you, Eric, and I got off thinking on like new computer type hardware, new networking hardware in my brain, because that's what most of my jobs have been lately on that. But yeah, so like
I can tell by the cable management job you did.
Break fix in the shop. So laptop screen, digitizer, motherboard, anything that we can put in the computer and resell the computer for a small profit after they leave it and abandon it is the limit that we will go up to in covering their costs. So usually like a laptop screen is worth the, we're not going to go over the price of the laptop. So if it's a $300 motherboard and the computer valued at $250, if they abandon it, we're not going to do that without a deposit. But anything that keeps us under the cost of reselling the computer and, you know, getting our money back in the end is where we set our limit on the break fix side of things.
See, here's the thing though, is I can't do that, because in Colorado, if someone abandons the computer and I decide to sell it, I can only sell it for the amount that the client owed on the computer. Say they had me do a $129 cleanup and left the computer here, I can only sell that computer for $129. Even if it's a frickin' Alienware laptop, legally I can only sell it for the amount that they owe. So when that happens, I part it out. I scrap the thing.
Well, you're still recouping your cost, though, is what my goal is to recoup my cost. So here we recycle them as well, because we remove any parts and we make the product defunct at that point. But I have to recoup my cost on what I spent, because I can't return that motherboard after 120 days.
Right, exactly. Like using that case of the motherboard I just ordered for the Speedy client. Yeah, I can't return it after, I think, 30 days. However, that being a big enough job after labor, I would definitely be able to sell that laptop for what I had into it. But in the case of, say, the laptop screen, say you're doing a screen on a Walmart computer, you charge the client $180, labor included, for a screen, and they leave it. I mean, you're lucky to get $100 out of selling that computer. So your best bet is to start pulling parts and selling them on eBay.
Recycle it. Pull your screen back out. It's a non-functional computer and it has no value any longer. And
Exactly. And so that's why on anything larger than a certain monetary amount, I require 100% deposit on the parts. But I haven't had that problem yet, fortunately, knock on wood. In 5 years, I haven't run into that, but I'm prepared that it will happen one day. And when it does, I'll know what to do about it.
It happened more before we started charging our diagnostic fee. Our diagnostic fee made people pick their computers up even when they didn't work.
Exactly, because that diagnostic fee serves as a filter. You're filtering out the El Cheapo Craigslist clients, and you're actually getting people, as I said earlier, that are serious about their computer fixing them. I make a lot of $49 charges on just the diagnostic, even if they choose not to get the computer fixed. Sometimes the cost of repair exceeds the price of replacement. The client, though, look, we're professionals. They're paying us for a professional service. Just like you go to your doctor gives you bad news, you're still going to pay your doctor that money for that exam. They're bringing the computer to us. If we give them bad news, they still, need to pay us for our professional opinion. And when you sell yourself as a professional and approach things professionally, people are more likely to give you money for your professional opinion. And that, to me, is what the diagnostic fee is. And if they're not willing to pay that, then they can leave. There's a shop a block away that advertises on Craigslist that's more than happy to give them that free diagnostic that they advertise real big in their window. And just remember, you get what you pay for. That free diagnostic is worth about zilch, but the diagnostic I do is a full diagnostic, and it's worth the $49.
But in the same sense, you offer a free diagnostic because you waive it if they get their system repaired. So yours is free diagnostic with repair.
It's a way. No, they don't see it that way though. This is where you go into perceived value. The client feels that once you waive that fee, that they're getting something. They feel like they're getting something for free. And when someone feels like they're getting something for free, they're more than likely to proceed. So I don't know what your average ticket is there, but my average ticket here comes to about $225. So waiving a $49 diagnostic fee to make $225 to me, it's worth it to me.
Our prices are a little lower than yours. We're slightly more rural than most places,
right?
But we do have a high hourly rate, and we do have reasonable flat costs on some of the services. But I would venture to guess without looking that we're probably in the 125 to 175 range. I mean, because we have a lot of OS installs, we have a lot of viruses, and those weight the average on the lower side. I mean, screen repairs were about the same. So you'd have to do a lot of, and remember, I've got more PC and not as much Mac in there as well. So you've got some Mac weighting your averages in there.
And I love the way the Mac weights the averages. It makes me so happy. So yeah, but yeah, it's basically, and that's where part of the document I pointed out that I always ask my clients how they heard about me, and that's so I can figure out what ways I want to market. And in figuring that marketing, I figured out what my target demographic is, what kind of client that I want, and that part of that document, just asking where did you hear about us, has given me insight into where I should market and getting these non-Craigslist shopping clients and the clients that are willing to pay me $225 plus for a service. And so that is, in my opinion, an extremely important part of this document that we're creating today is have just a small space on there to ask the client, where did you hear about us? Did they see us on a Google review? Did they hear from a friend, Yelp, whatever? And that way you can kind of get a feel of what's working, what's not working, and what avenue you want to explore further as far as your marketing goes. Because without marketing, we're not going to even have these people walking in our stores to fill out this documentation in the first place. So that little tiny referral area or referred by area or whatever you want to call it on your onboarding document is more important than most people probably think.
Hey, so I know Steven designed this originally to be for like an SOP style document. So I've got mine here on the screen. I'm going to pull it up real quick so we can kind of look at the way that it was written. I haven't read this document before today, so hopefully it's good.
Is it the one Joelle wrote?
Yes, this is the one that my former employee wrote when she was first getting trained. So hopefully I told her everything right. Otherwise, we'll be an embarrassment on here. So again, it's an onboarding thing. So we're thinking this is designed for anybody at my front counter dropping off some sort of unit. It, of course, says laptop tower, but it could be a networking switch, a wireless router, a phone, any number of things. But we go, literally, where the form's located, make sure she's making sure the right form is being used. Because I have multiple forms up there. I have a recycling form, a mobile form, and a desktop form. So, customer fill out the form, make sure they sign the back of the form. You can tell where our emphasis was when I was talking to her about this. We do wipe down the computer because some computers are just absolutely disgusting. I use baby wipes, your regular Huggies baby wipes. But as you can see, I made a note to her, and she even bolded the word. Make sure they're not dripping wet when you're wiping a computer down with these baby wipes. As far as every screen we've seen, they're fine to use on the screens as well. They cause no damage. Just make sure you wipe them up afterwards.
There's an interesting note. I'm going to interrupt you for a second there about the dirty computers. I have noticed as I've changed the demographic that I market to the more upper middle class, their computers are dirtier. You get keyboards with dandruff in them, all kinds of nastiness. So yeah, cleaning the computer when you first get it in. I wash my hands a lot throughout
Yeah.
the day because of this. And
We
yeah,
use those wipes universally. So we wash our hands, we wash our counters, we wash the computers.
Oh
I
yeah.
buy them in the bulk pack at Walmart. So I mean, they go a long way for us. And the thing that we didn't do at the time, because it usually doesn't get done till later, would be the blowing out of the computers. That's after it gets in the back. But this is the onboarding process, so it wasn't in here. But we do air dust computers as well. Check for damage. We use Autotask. So remember, we use Autotask instead of the paper ticket for everything. If it's really major, we'll write it on a paper ticket. But we check for any pre-existing damage, any broken parts, and we record that in their ticket so they can't say we did it later. Our ticket also dates itself. That's non-changeable. So theoretically, the customer, would have a hard time arguing that something was broke at a later date. AC adapter, make sure that they provide us with their power cord. We make them bring in all power cords. So if they provided it or not, we put a note in their ticket to make sure. And then this talks about, how we're going to create a ticket, open Autotask, so on. Then we go into making that DIMO label. So we make that DIMO label that gives their ticket number and their customer code. I feel like some of this stuff is missing, but that's only because I'm skimming it. QuickBooks, we go in there, we make sure the customer's entered in there so we can write their $25 diagnostic receipt. Laptops get 2 to 3 labels, or print 2 to 3 labels, 2 for desktops, 3 for laptops. We tag an AC adapter, the bottom of the laptop, and then we keep 1 for ourselves. The 1 for ourselves will sit on the palm rest or the front of the desktop so we can easily access the ticket number anytime we need it. It's in the shop.
An alternative to that I've been thinking about adopting myself, and I saw a fellow in a forum years ago mention this, that he uses a price gun, and he just puts
Tom.
invoice number. Was that Tom that did that?
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah,
well, he doesn't
use
use
an
an invoice number. It's a customer number. Yeah, he tags everything that they bring in with a little price sticker gun.
Yeah, and you can get those price sticker guns on Amazon for like $20-25. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I just haven't done it yet.
So the other thing that we use this for is the DIMO label actually has our company logo, our company name, and phone number on it. So, and it also has date and time that the ticket was created. So every time the DIMO label spits out a label, it puts the current date and time in it in small print. It helps us.
Do you leave that on the computer when they pick the device up?
We leave the one on the bottom of the computer and on the AC adapter, yes.
Oh, very nice. Just like Best Buy does, but yours is branded, so it gives you a little bit of branding. So next time,
yeah, ours is a white label. I'll see if I can't grab one in a second and show you guys. Cool. But yeah, so we leave that on there on their AC adapter, so that if they lose their AC adapter, it kind of matches up if it's in a pile of them, if they lose them, not us. But it also helps us identify them in the store. Again, that brands it so that, somebody could call us if they find an AC adapter laying around, and maybe we save the day for that customer because it has their customer code. So the customer can't be called directly, but they could call our store and say, hey, I have MAR 031's AC adapter, how do I get this back to them? And we can help them with that process. But we don't use customer information on tags. We only use ticket numbers and customer codes. We had a privacy issue way back when with customer tags that we used to do for convenience of just customer's name, address, and phone number. Somebody saw a recycled computer and called the owner of it trying to ask to buy it. So since then, we only use customer codes. But yeah, so I mean, and then of course, this is new customer. She apparently left us somewhere in between writing this document, apparently. But I'll give this document to Steven. Like I said, some of it, is, I'm guessing the top part is what's going to be valuable to most. And then if somebody has Autotask, of course, using this for anybody that has Autotask. I'm going to go grab a sticker real quick so I can show you.
Thanks, Sean. And I think after that, we're going to start the wrap-up process. So while we're waiting on him to get a sticker and before we wrap up, I want to see if anyone has questions.
All right, so this is the sticker that we put on the computer. If I can get it to focus. There it goes.
There we go.
So literally that's what goes on the bottom of every computer. And as you can see, it's only torn halfway. We put this on the palm rest of a laptop so that we can have the ticket number easily accessible to us. Also tells us who the customer is.
Very nice.
So I think the best part about it is it has our contact information.
Mm-hmm.
The date is relevant. So the date tells us the day the ticket was created. And that means if we look on the bottom of a pre-existing customer, we can find out when they were last in here. It'll help us with a few things. We changed from mHelpDesk to Autotask about a year ago. And so we'll know if it's over a year old at this point. We will look into that system for reference. We'll know by the ticket number as well. But the date helps us with those, helps us find invoices. So if we need to find their last invoice, but they come in and buy ink or whatever from us, we might have to go 5-6 invoices back. We can use the date to find stuff.
I like it. Carlos has a question. Do you buy your wipes from Costco?
No, I buy them from Walmart. I don't have the box because we pull them all out. But it's the biggest box you can buy from Walmart of Huggies. They do have aloe in them, so I do advise that I am not advising you to use them on a screen. We do, however, use them on screens with no issues. You just want to make sure that you thoroughly dry the screen afterwards.
The softest screen ever.
My hands are very soft.
Mary said she created a cleaning station at her place, so that's made things a lot easier. And then Isaac asked, why don't you have a barcode for lookup, John? I can answer that question because Autotask at this time doesn't support barcodes. So Repair Shopper, I believe, does.
Yeah, but then you'd have to use Repair Shopper.
Right. And I keep thinking they're like diapers because it says Huggies. I forget they make wipes.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Repair Shopper being like diapers. My bad.
No,
It kind of is too, but
I'm not gonna say that. I like Repair Shopper. It's just not as complete.
But no, so we use these packs. They actually come in like I think 7 to 10 packs of these in a box, and they work great for everything we've used. Again, I would say be careful using them on a screen only because they have aloe in them. But we've never had trouble after using a microfiber wipe afterwards. We make sure the screens have no streaks or anything like that and never see any damage. So we use Clorox wipes as well. I saw somebody in the chat said they use Clorox wipes. We use those to sanitize computers, not to clean computers. So if it's a really dirty computer and we think that like we might catch a disease off of it, we'll definitely use some Clorox wipes on it. But the average computer gets the Huggies wipes just because they're inexpensive.
Excellent. Well, I thank the two of you. We did get a nice little single-page list of bullet points for things to think about when signing on a new client. We'll also, maybe the three of us can collaborate and come up with a single form that maybe we don't mind sharing with people.
Definitely.
I'll make that form and just work with you guys to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Well, I'm sure we can get something done real quick.
Excellent. And yeah, I think that covers everything. And I don't see any other questions or anything that we've missed in there. So I do thank you, John and Eric, for participating. I know that it's not always easy to, just drop everything and take, a couple hours out of your day to help do these things, but it is greatly appreciated. I have something I'm going to share on my screen real quick. So I just want to make sure you guys know that everything that I'm doing, which screen am I sharing? I'm sharing the wrong screen, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
Everything he's doing in Photoshop, apparently.
Yep, wrong screen. So everything I'm doing is not necessarily free. All of the webinars are free, and I do put up content from time to time typically at least once a week up here on the mspwebinars.com site. It redirects you to my Patreon account. And if you'd like to access that additional content, just become a subscriber. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month, and that'll get you access to most everything. I just want to keep growing this and eventually make this kind of my primary gig. I really enjoy doing these webinars. I enjoy helping you guys out. I love playing with new toys and new tools. And yeah, so that's everything I've got for you guys today. Next week, I believe, is VoIP sales, how to sell VoIP. Let me double check that real quick so I can give you a definitive answer. I know I should probably start having this stuff ready ahead of time, but that
PowerPoint slides with the next set of shows. So you just hit the next button and then it slides over and shows you the next. There's an idea for next week.
Don't be ridiculous. All right, so next week, let's click the actual registration link so you see one that's pretty. So learn from the breast. Ray Orsini, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him, but he is one of the best guys I know in the industry doing VoIP. He's got his own voice over IP phone company, and you can become a partner and make a ton of money reselling his services. You can either do it white label or as a channel partner. Either way, you can make a bunch of money. Ray's going to teach you everything you need to know. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today. I hope to see you guys next week. As soon as I stop broadcasting this on the YouTube, it will automatically just be there. And I want to say in like 15 to 30 minutes, it'll just be ready to watch.
Hey, Steve, even though I haven't done a lot on it, I'm going to have to throw a pitch in here before you cut it off. You guys can find me on YouTube, and I'm going to start doing more content at A Tech's Perspective. So search for A Tech's Perspective, and I'm going to start putting more content on there. Steve's inspired me.
Awesome. Eric, any last words from you, sir?
None that would be appropriate for this format. Thank you.
With that said, thanks everyone for attending. I hope you all have a great day.